Sorry, Lightning makers, no clickbait on this thumbnail. I really paid 10 times as many fees as I paid for my regular payment. So I guess that's the end of the Lightning Network. It's too expensive and not working. Well, actually, it was clickbait because yes, I paid those fees, but I paid them for good reasons. So let's start right on with the video. Most of you probably know that I am invited by Chaincode Labs to go to New York next week to participate in the Lightning residency. While preparing the Lightning residency, I found out one little tweak of the Lightning Network, which is that you can pay about any person in the Lightning Network without the necessity for them to issue an invoice first. When I figured out how to do this, I thought everyone else would also know this, so I sent out this small tweet asking people if they were interested in doing this. And the response was quite amazing. Most people were like, "What?" You know, the standard process in the Lightning Network is that somebody makes an invoice and then sends the invoice over to you, then you decode the invoice, and then you decide if you want to pay the invoice or if you don't want to pay the invoice. That's the standard process, and that's needed because in the invoice there is the payment hash, which is basically the hash of a secret, and while routing the payment through the network, the secret is being released over the HTLCs from the payee up to you as the payer. Okay. If that was too quick for you, no problem, just subscribe to my channel because in future videos I'm going to explain in more detail how HTLCs and how payment channels work. Okay, back to the problem of sending a payment to somebody without having them issuing an invoice first. As we just saw, we need an invoice. We need a payment hash and we need the secret to the payment hash. Otherwise, the HTLCs or the chain of HTLCs for the onion routing can't be created. But if the other side doesn't want to issue an invoice, or if the other side can't issue an invoice because we don't talk to the other side, we have to issue an invoice ourselves. And that's the secret behind the trick. If we issue an invoice, we usually expect another node to pay the invoice. However, nobody prohibits us to pay the invoice ourselves. Well, actually somebody does, because you can try in your Lightning node to issue an invoice and then pay the invoice yourself, and the Lightning node will probably say something like can't find a route or there is no route, and usually it just doesn't work.
I'll say, what am I gonna do?
Obviously I don't know what Carlos Mantos is gonna do, but I know what we can do. So let's assume anyone gives us an invoice. Within the invoice, there is the node ID of the other person encoded. When we ask our Lightning node to pay the invoice, the first thing that is happening is that the node ID of the other person is being extracted, and that a low-level API, which also is exposed to the command line API, is used to find a route to the other node. So if we want to pay anybody, we just use the getRoute command to find a route to the other person. Once we have the route to the other person, we just go the route backwards again to us, and then we have a full circle. And then we use the sendPay command to pay the invoice. Well, actually, the sendPay command takes the payment hash, which we got from our invoice, and a route, which is the full circle that we were going. So to summarize, we start by issuing an invoice about 1 Satoshi that we want to pay, and the invoice we're going to pay ourselves. Since we can't do this, we find a route to a person that we want to pay, and then we go the route in the reverse order back to ourselves. Now let's assume we want to pay 100,000 Satoshis to this other person. We can do this by starting with a little bit more than 100,000 Satoshis and decrease the amount that is being forwarded in each HTLC all the way up to the node that we want to pay, so that the node that we want to pay has roughly 100,000 Satoshis. And then we spend a ridiculously high routing fee for this person. So in the future HTLCs all the way back, we just use 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1 Satoshi, or maybe a little bit more. And in this way, we basically have paid the other person. The other person won't see that there was an incoming payment. However, if the other person monitors their channel balances and their routing fees, they will certainly see that at some point in time, 100,000 Satoshis were earned or were received. So here you can see a screenshot from my wallet where you see that at the same time I withdraw 1 Satoshi and I received 1 Satoshi. But if you look at the details, you will see that I actually spent 11 Satoshis in order to withdraw this 1 Satoshi. So there were 10 Satoshis in routing fees, which I used to pay somebody 10 Satoshis. Actually, I paid the other person only 2 Satoshis and paid every hop in the network also 2 Satoshis. But that doesn't really matter here. The funny thing is you can also see that the node ID is my public node ID, so that was really the process. I paid an invoice to myself, and on the way I dropped the routing fees to people whom I wanted to give a couple Satoshis.
Let me tell you guys that I am so excited, I am so happy, I am really so thrilled to be right now sharing this amazing, glorious super and exciting moment of my life with all of you guys.
As usual, I have put the source code of this idea in my Lightning Helpers GitHub repository. You can find this in the description of this video. There you can also find my node ID, so you can actually try out to leave me some routing fees or a payment to me without me even noticing this. Also, I want to say thank you to everyone who is supporting me by sponsoring my activities. And I'm really excited to go to New York next week and looking forward to improve the custodial wallet service that I'm trying to build. So I'm not so sure if I will be able to produce videos for the next 2 weeks. Maybe I'm able to give some impressions about the Lightning residency or about the New York Lightning Hack Day, where I'm also going to be after the Lightning residency. Actually, I'm hoping that I'm going to see many of you at the New York Lightning Hack Day. And if you're there, just say hello. I'm very happy to get to know you. And until then, happy lightning hacking.